Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to Dominions 5. My name's Mew, and this time around I'm going to be playing a multiplayer game set in the early age, and I'm going to be playing as Mictlan. You know, I've always really liked Mictlan as a nation. They're one of those nations that, when you tell people about Dominions, I feel like there's a few nations that you like to tell stories about. Or is the classic one, you know, the nation that just kills everyone, and free spawns skeletons everywhere. And, really, is pretty cool, all that kind of stuff. And I always felt like back in the old days, Mictlan was one of those nations as well. Because they were the nation that most commonly you played with a big bless, just steamroll people with loads of cool sacreds that shapeshift and stuff like that. All the while patrolling all of your provinces to catch, blood slaves to do all blood sacrificing on your temples to spread your dominion. I think because, the way blood magic functions in this game is so unique. And I feel like Mictlan was the blood nation in the old days, so they always seemed really cool to me for that reason. The very first game of Dominions 3 that I ever played was as middle-age Mictlan, and I really liked them. And so when I picked them in this game, my intention was I was going to go like an old-school build, which in my mind is quickness and flaming weapons. And so originally that was the plan with this god. It was going to be a fountain with quickness, flaming weapons, or some god like that. But man, it's pretty hard to do that on an awake god and not just tank your skills, huh? And so the more and more I tweaked it, the more I ended up with the statue of the Bloody Mother, because man, this pretender is just so efficient for getting a bless like what I ended up with, which is regen and blood vengeance. So here we are. It's not quite what I wanted, but Mictlan will be the first blood nation I've played, I think, on the channel. I'm not sure. I've played other nations that have blood as a secondary, but never a primary blood hunting nation, so we'll see how that goes as well. I think early age might be a bit rougher for blood stuff since the populations are so much lower, but we'll give it a shot. We'll just run all our provinces into the ground looking for blood slaves, why not? So the god I went with, Statue of the Bloody Mother, mostly just because of how efficient it is. It's very easy to get a big regen bless and then a blood vengeance bless, because Mictlan gets bonus blood bless points. So here's how we ended up. To be fair though, I have always wanted to do a blood vengeance bless on a nation as well, which is something else I've never done. Because I know that every now and again you get into a game and one of your neighbours has a blood vengeance bless, and man, it is so difficult knowing how to fight into that. So it'll be cool to play with that for once as well. And regen goes nicely on jaguars too. Since they have two shapes, they've got a decent amount of hit points, not too bad. We get some summons later on that have huge amounts of hit points as well. So I think regen blood vengeance is probably like the most basic, typical standard bless you could do on EA Mictlan, but yeah, it's pretty good on this chassis. Lets us take pretty decent scales as well. I tried playing around with a slightly bigger bless than this, but with worse scales. I didn't really like it as much. It's nice to have a little bit of order and stuff like that. I guess partially because it helps with patrolling and stuff, but mostly just because it's nice to have more recruitment points and more gold in the early game. Because if you really need to, having a bit of additional income lets you just mass tons and tons of slingers, which have their uses. So I quite like that. I like being able to sprinkle units in with my armies as well at the start. Because if you tank your skills too much, you're basically just recruiting a couple of jags, and that's about it each turn. But if you've got a little bit of gold, you can spread things out with a few slingers or javeliners, or get a few standards in there and stuff. Yeah, so regen blood vengeance burst. We've got order 2. Sloth 2 basically pay for that. Most of our troops don't really need many resources, so pretty straightforward to just dump most of your productivity. That's okay. Heat 3, we like heat, so put it up to 3, why not? A bit of growth to help out with maybe growing some of the provinces. Help us out with blood hunting and stuff. It's pretty nice, I find, having scales that are kind of in the mid-range as well, because a lot of the times the temptation is to just max positive scales, but then you'll end up claiming a throne that has growth on it or something and waste all your points. So kind of nice to have the scales hovering around the middle. So we've got order 2, growth 1, and luck 2 as well. Try to be a bit lucky. We've also got Drain 2. Magic is my go-to scale for dumping. I don't do much research, and in this game, hey, we only really want to be researching blood magic anyway, so I'm sure we won't need to do that much research. But if we do, I'm sure we can catch up as well. There's a a magic booster in Blood, and there's a magic booster in, or a research booster, I should say, a research booster in Blood, and a really good research booster in Fire, which we have access to. So I'm sure we can catch up on research if we need to. So our god is awake, we've got 2 Incarnate Blessers, we've got pretty decent scales overall, and we still get the minion 7. It's pretty nice. The Statue of the Bloody Mother is just a very, very efficient chassis for this build. Pretty good. This game is running one mod, which is the JBBM balance mod, which is the standard balance mod that we use on the Ruby Discord. Usually nations don't have too many changes, so I just kind of briefly mention them. Mictlan actually has quite a few changes though in this balance mod, so I'm not sure how best to go through them. I think maybe just right at the end of this video, which I guess is now, I'll just kind of run through them all quickly, and then as I'm doing the turns, I'll point out anything that's particularly noteworthy in terms of changes. JBBM also makes a lot of changes to blood magic generally, makes things more expensive, so yeah, this might be a bit more difficult than vanilla Mictlan games, I don't know. I guess we'll see how it gets on. Yeah, so I'll just list some of the JBBM changes to Mictlan if you're interested. Before I do that though, I guess I'll just mention, as usual, thanks to my Patreon supporters for supporting me making these videos. If you do enjoy these videos, or you enjoy any of the other stuff on the channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description, and you can consider joining it, or whatever the word is, supporting it. And yeah, or just like the video and leave a comment or something, that helps me too, I suppose. Or consider subscribing if you haven't already. Okay, right. See if I can find a nice easy list of JBBM changes to Mictlan. Okay, changes. Weapon changes first. The one-handed version of the Obsidian Club Sword is 2 damage higher, but costs 4 more resources to make. Jaguar warriors in their human form now wield one-handed Obsidian Club Swords instead of the two-handed version. Javelins have been replaced across the entire nation. Mictlan now wield atlatls instead of javelins. Atlatls have 25 range, but they cost 1 more resource than javelins. Unit changes. Jaguar warriors now wear magic furs, a magic headdress, and a magic leather shield, instead of the usual mundane stuff. They also, as mentioned, have a one-handed Obsidian Club Sword. Jaguar warriors, when they shapeshift into Jaguar shape, have 50% dark vision, like a Jaguar, and they are always Berserk 3 if they're blessed. Also, their bite attack makes a roaring sound. Sun warriors cost 22 gold, have 1 sun ore, 1 heat power, and a dawn shield. Moon warrior is now 13 gold, has 2 dark power, and 1 dominion power. All the units who used to carry a javelin or a spear now carry an atlatl. Mage changes. There is now a new mage called a Sun Priest. You can recruit it anywhere, and it is Fire 1, Blood 1, Holy 2. Some god changes. The Teotl of Rain autocasts Rain. The Teotl of War autocasts Fanaticism. The Teotl of the Sky autocasts Storm. And the Teotl of the Underworld casts Solar Eclipse. Spell changes. Bind Beast Bats now costs 15 Blood Slaves and requires B2 to cast. Bind Jaguar Fiends now costs 30 Blood Slaves and requires B2 to cast. Contact Siva Teteo now costs 50 Blood Slaves and requires Blood 3 to cast. And Contact Blahol Pucci now costs 60 Blood Slaves and requires Blood 4 to cast. Reign of Jaguars now costs 100 Blood Slaves to cast. There are also some new spells. Maze Vigil is a replacement for Blood Fecundity, which EA Mictlan no longer gets. It gives you +2 growth in the province it was cast for an entire year, from spring to spring. However, it also causes a one-time loss of 3 dominion. Lunar Intervention is a Blood Astral version of the Darkness battlefield enchantment. Solar Vigil is a 1-province second sun for 1 turn. Endow Garlands is a ritual that creates 3 Garland warriors. These are bodyguard warriors similar to human form Jaguar warriors, but their shields cause entanglement. Anyone they kill will be raised as a temporary blood slave. Invoke Game Theory is an upgraded version of the Endow Garland spell that summons 12 +3 per level Garland warriors. It's also worth mentioning that in the JBBM balance mod, Banishment, that all priests can cast, works on demons. So to help protect demons from being banished, there is a spell at Blood 6 called Sanguine Protection that is anti-magic for demons only. A final change is that the High Temple of the Sun now spreads Dominion too, like a level 2 throne. And those are, I think, all of the Mictlan specific changes in JBBM, so there's quite a few. So it might be a bit different from vanilla Mictlan, but it's still going to play very similarly. I think that's everything, so thanks as always for watching. I hope you enjoy the series. The next time you hear from me, it will be turn 1 to 3. So hopefully I'll see you then, and wish me luck.